There was a moment during the match that most viewers probably missed the first time. Not the goal itself, not the celebration that followed it. Something smaller, something that happened in the half second before the ball crossed the line. A faint, almost imperceptible deviation in its flight path that, once you see it on the replay, you cannot unsee. Norway's coaching staff saw it. They had it isolated on their screens before the stadium had finished singing. And when their coach stepped to the post-match microphone, he wasn't the deflated kind of defeated. He was the quieter, more dangerous kind of furious. The kind that comes from knowing you're right, and knowing that no one wearing an official badge is going to agree with you in public. The question at the center of this controversy is not whether England played well. They did. The question is whether the goal that broke Norway's resistance was legitimate under FIFA's own written rules, and whether FIFA has any intention of answering that question honestly. To understand what Norway's coach was pointing at, you need to understand a piece of infrastructure that the vast majority of fans have never thought about, even though it has been hanging directly above them in major football stadiums for the better part of a decade. The suspended camera systems that broadcasters use, what production teams call spider cams, are strung on cables stretched between anchor points high in the stadium structure. In the major international venues commissioned for this World Cup, those cables pass directly over the pitch, at heights that, in the ordinary run of play, should never be relevant, should never be. Footage circulating widely after the final whistle and the analysis Norway's staff reportedly presented to officials suggests that during the build-up to England's decisive goal, the ball made contact with one of those overhead cables. What precisely that contact meant for the ball's subsequent trajectory is exactly what Norway's coaching team believes has never been properly examined under the laws of the game as written by FIFA, the body that sets the rules of football globally. Contact between the ball and any overhead structure in the stadium requires the referee to stop play and restart with a dropped ball. The language in the rule book is not ambiguous. Says overhead structure, not overhead structure that is unaffiliated with the match, not overhead structure that lacks an official broadcast contract. All overhead structures. The rule carries no exemption for equipment that FIFA itself approved, installed, and is being paid to have in the stadium. That is Norway's argument, and measured against the text of the rulebook, it is not a fringe argument. FIFA's official response, issued in the hours after the match, according to multiple outlets covering the tournament, did what FIFA's official responses almost always do. It confirmed the referee's decision, noted that on-field officials are responsible for applying the laws of the game in real time, and declined to address the specific allegation about cable contact as a matter of separate inquiry. Think about what that actually means. A coaching staff raises a specific, documented, rule-based objection with a direct citation to the laws of the game. FIFA's answer, in effect, is, the referee decided, and the referee's decision stands. That might be a defensible position in a dispute over a borderline foul call or an offside measurement counted in millimeters. It is considerably harder to defend when the allegation is that a piece of FIFA's own broadcast infrastructure physically interfered with the ball, equipment that FIFA approved, in a FIFA-operated stadium, in a FIFA-organized tournament, FIFA's infrastructure, FIFA's rules, FIFA's decision to close the matter without a substantive response. You've followed this sport long enough to know the difference between a governing body protecting the integrity of a result and a governing body protecting itself. Norway's coach, for his part, was not staying quiet. In a post-match press conference that was remarkably precise given the circumstances, he outlined what his staff had documented with a deliberateness that was pointed and controlled. He was explicit in directing his criticism, not at England, and not at the referee as an individual, but at the VAR review process and at FIFA's readiness to engage with what his staff had identified. According to multiple outlets present at the conference, he made the specific argument that FIFA's review protocols, as they currently exist, do not include a standard check for ball-to-overhead structure contact, that the system is not looking for what may have happened because it was never designed to look for it. That is the allegation that matters most here. Not that a referee missed something in real time. Referees miss things in real time, and that is the entire reason VAR was invented, but that the review system itself lacks a specific protocol for the exact scenario that may have occurred in this match. FIFA's infrastructure and FIFA's blind spot. This is not the first time in this tournament that the relationship between FIFA's broadcast infrastructure and the integrity of play has generated concern. The suspended camera systems deployed across the host venues have been a subject of quiet conversation among technical staff throughout the competition. The irony is almost too neat. The very technology FIFA deploys to broadcast the tournament to the largest possible global audience is the technology that may may have altered the outcome of a knockout match. The cameras are there to capture the drama. One of them reportedly may have created it. This connects to a pattern that runs well beyond any single incident. FIFA consistently prioritizes the presentation of its tournaments to broadcast partners, the aesthetics, the production value, the sweeping aerial shots that make the event look like something more than a football match. The fine print of how that broadcast infrastructure interacts with the actual laws of the game gets far less attention until something goes wrong. Then when something does go wrong, the organization defaults to a defense of the referee's call rather than an examination of the system that put the referee in an impossible position. Football has been here before. In 1966, the most famous disputed goal in English football history, scored against West Germany in a World Cup final on home soil, turned on whether the ball had fully crossed the line. That debate ran for decades. It also eventually produced something: goal line technology, Hawkeye, and the modern suite of officiating tools that now sit at the center of how football polices its own decisions. The lesson of that controversy was never that the referee was malicious. It was that the technology of the era was inadequate to answer the question the moment demanded. Norway's coach is making exactly that argument today. Not about a referee, about a gap in the system. The stakes here run beyond one match and one bracket. FIFA is in the middle of its most commercially ambitious World Cup in history. Every infrastructure decision, the venues, the production contracts, the camera systems, has been presented as the gold standard of modern tournament operations. If those decisions have introduced a class of interference that no one in the officiating structure is equipped to detect and review as a matter of standard protocol, that is a structural problem. And it raises an uncomfortable question about every other match in this tournament where the same camera systems were deployed. If there is no standard check for cable contact, then this match is not necessarily the only one where the question could legitimately be asked. So ask yourself this: if the coach standing at that microphone had been managing one of the major footballing nations, one with the broadcast contracts, the federation clout, and the political weight that comes with a large football market, would FIFA's response have looked the same? And if you believe the answer is yes, that the size of the nation makes no difference to how seriously the allegation is treated, ask yourself what it says that Norway is still waiting for a substantive engagement with a rule-based objection they put in writing. The goal may stand, the result may stand, but the question does not disappear just because FIFA stops taking questions. Somewhere in Norway's footage library tonight, there is probably a single frame, isolated from an overhead broadcast angle, where the cable and the ball appear in the same image, and the question their staff is asking is obvious enough that it doesn't need a caption. They are watching it on a loop. The tournament rolls on, and that frame just sits there, waiting for someone with the authority and the willingness to look at it properly and decide it deserves an answer. If this is the kind of story you want someone to stay on top of, every call, every controversy, every moment football's governing bodies would prefer you forgot, subscribe and hit the bell, because we are on every single one. And I want to know what you actually think in the comments. Does Norway have a genuine, sustainable case here? Or does this fall apart once the heat of the moment passes? Make your argument. I'll be reading. See you in the next one.